Well, good afternoon, good evening or good morning or whatever time of the day that you're watching this video, if you're watching it indeed. Yes, things have changed in this wonderful world of ours since I last did a video, which was, I think was only a couple of weeks ago. Things have changed. I cannot think of a time when there's so much more panic, fear and dread to take over the whole of this world. I think the last time that this happened that I can remember was of course 9/11. In 9/11, of course, all of a sudden it seems as though the whole world was erupting, planes were cancelled and everybody felt that little bit more insecure. And some of the security things that were put in place at that time, they're still with us today. And at the time, I'd left the witnesses at that time, but I was in contact with a few witnesses, and they actually, intimated to me that they believed that this was indeed a precursor for the end of this system of things. Subsequently, I've been to New York, I've been to where the Twin Towers were, I've taken pictures of the, I think it's called the Freedom Tower. Life has gone on. Yes, it was terrible. We still live with a lot of security issues, but 9/11 has been come and gone, and it's just now a historical event. So now we have the coronavirus. Everybody's talking about the coronavirus, and it isn't just something that was happening in China. And maybe a little bit, maybe over there and somewhere else, somewhere far, far away. It's not, all of a sudden it was in Italy, and then a lot of people visited Italy and then decided to spread it all over the world. So now, near enough, the coronavirus is all over the world. And Europe at the moment is bearing the brunt of the most deaths and the people who actually have contracted the coronavirus. Now, of course, what's subsequently happened is, because of the implications of the coronavirus, there has been a lockdown of countries, lockdown in going to work and going out your house, and going to the shops, going to a restaurant, going to a pub, going to visit your granny in a nursing home, going on a plane. It's just that the whole world has just stopped. It is incredible what this virus has done. And of course what's happened is you have Jehovah's Witnesses on many of the pages, which have sadly come to my news feed, who are absolutely going ballistic and happy for the coronavirus, because they say that is a fulfillment of signs of the horseman of the apocalypse, and of course the prophecies given in the Gospels relating to this system of things ending, and they're saying this is a fulfillment of that prophecy. Then you have ex-Jehovah's Witnesses who've been away from the organisation for a number of years, who are absolutely crapping their pants because they're thinking, notice the cough there, haven't got a temperature, and they're thinking to themselves, my God, I'd better get back to the organisation quick because the end is nigh, and I don't want to be on the wrong side of this spectacular slaughter by the God of love. My feeling on this is quite simple. Everybody all over the world needs to just calm the fuck down. Let's just look at the latest pandemic and then look at this in relation to other pandemics, both in my lifetime and in the past. Now I've got the top 10 I've got the top 10 pandemics here. This won't take very long. I'll just go them very, very quickly. HIV. Who remembers HIV? Still, there's no cure for the HIV virus. They can, if you get it, that's you. You've got it for life. There are drugs that you can get that can prolong your life, but there's no cure for HIV, and it is killing millions and has killed millions past 30 odd years in Africa. It's over there. There's children who are born with it. It's terrible. The HIV, and anybody can get this. Lots of people can get coronavirus, but it only seems to be sort of knocking off the people who've got an inherent health problem or are elderly or whatever it is. But HIV knows age, sexes or boundaries or health issues. It just, if you have that, you're buggered. Excuse the pun. And the death toll for the HIV virus, which has only been, apparently its peak was 2005 to 2012, is 36, not thousand, but million, 36 million. Let's go on to the flu epidemic. It was also called the Hong Kong flu. I do remember this, 1968, death toll around about 1 million. Asian flu, 56 to 58, 2 million. The Spanish flu, 1918, approximately 20 to 50 million. Then there was cholera outbreaks all over the world between 1910 and 1911, 800,000. Flu pandemics, 1889 to 90, 1 million. Another cholera pandemic, 1852 to 1860, 1 million. Now here's the big one. Here's a big one. I don't remember this, obviously. The big one, the Black Death. The Black Death. Who remembers the Black Death? The Black Death. It came apparently from... started off in China and then through the Silk Route or whatever it is, and then it came into Asia, then it came into Europe, and by the time it finished, and it was only on the go for 7 years, it killed near enough between 30 and 60% of the population of this planet. Death toll was between 75 and 200 million. In the 14th century. Imagine the decimation, that sort of figure, killing people. That's why between 30 and 60% of the population of this planet, well, mostly Europe, was dead. Then we get to one I've never heard of, the Plague of Justinian, 541 to 542. Another bubonic plague. Europe again, here we go again, 25 million. The Antonine Plague, 165 AD, cause unknown, death toll 5 million. There's also the bubonic plague, which occurred in Britain in the 17th century. It decimated 20% of London's population, and shortly thereafterwards you had the Great Fire of London, which was the following year. And at that point they thought the reason why these events were occurring was the wrath of God, because Britain had turned into a Protestant country, and a lot of people put the blame on God. So there you go. Have things changed? No, they haven't. But when we look at those figures, you know, you can see that people these days, I'm sure all the 36 million people who had AIDS would prefer to have got the coronavirus. At least the coronavirus, potentially, you're not very well, bad flu symptoms, you'll probably recover and you'll get better. For all those who've died of AIDS, there's no coming back from that one. All the people who died from the Great Plague, you know, between 200 million people, I'm sure they would have died. They would have died to have a little bit of the coronavirus. So, in other words, I'm just saying, you know what, yes, I can understand that the measures people are going to, I can understand what's happening. I live in a rural area, so there's not even one case of the coronavirus in the area of Scotland I live. There is not one yet. So I can understand where people in a more populous place are you know, really worried. They don't know wondering what will happen to them, especially their elderly relatives. I can understand why we have what's happening. But the difference is, instead of me, like Jehovah's Witnesses, looking at the coronavirus and thinking, there you go, this assures me that we are Jehovah's people and that the end is nigh, I see the coronavirus and I think completely the opposite. When I see the effects of the coronavirus, I think that it demonstrates that, sorry, Jehovah's Witnesses, you are not God's people. Now, why do I say that? I say that because apparently, and I've seen 2 letters, but I don't know if they're true or not, because I don't know, and I've seen lots of things on Facebook, but apparently, in many places all over the earth, there's no district conventions, there's no circuit assemblies, they've all been cancelled, kingdom halls have shut down, and the preaching work has stopped. The preaching work has stopped, and including carting has stopped. And you can see why they've done it. You can see how they're trying to protect the congregation. I bet you the governing body are particularly shitting themselves. I bet you they're not shaking. Maybe they're doing the elbow shake. I don't know. I bet they must be shitting themselves because they're advanced age. Maybe they're all in isolation. Heaven knows. But you can understand why the Jehovah's Witnesses are doing what they're doing. But the thing is this. This is the organisation who state that they're God's chosen people and believe they're offered some sort of protection being Jehovah's people. If we go back to a parallel example, let's go back to the God's chosen people, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob. They were in captivity in Egypt. Upon that area came the great plagues, the 10 plagues on the Egyptians and that area, and mostly it didn't affect the descendants of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob. As a result, it was demonstrated that God, the God of these descendants, was the only true God. Why? Because the plagues never affected them and Jehovah protected them. So then it was obvious to see which people God was with. So when they actually left Egypt, it wasn't just the Israelites that left with them. It was also a lot of other people, even Egyptians, who left because they could see that God was in these people, because they were about to be free to go into their promised land, their paradise. What they didn't know was they're going to have to wait 40 years for it, trundle in the wilderness at this time, and the majority of them to die. But hey ho. Now the parallel today is that if God really was with Jehovah's Witnesses, and the coronavirus really was the last big event. We've had all the world wars and the earthquakes and whatever, and this is the last big event, the coronavirus, which has just struck us down as it has done. You would think that Jehovah would offer some protection to his people. You would think that those kingdom halls would remain open. You would think they would be out preaching. You'd think they'd be out teaching. You'd think they'd be out in their masses on their carts with a special issue, the corona issue of the Watchtower and Awake, advising people the significance of this particular virus, advising them that this is probably the last sign of the end of this system of things, that unless they join Jehovah's Witnesses they are definitely going to die, and that the Jehovah's Witnesses have been protected by Jehovah God, that when you see the likes of mosques and churches and chapels and synagogues and temples closing down all over this planet, that Jehovah's Witnesses are the only group who are still saying doors are open, it's business as usual. In fact, it's even busier, because Jehovah God is demonstrating he is with us. None of us have got the coronavirus. You can't give us a coronavirus, and we can't give you the coronavirus. We are coronavirus free. We are offered this protection from Jehovah, and here's a special coronavirus issue of the Watchtower and the Awake. So everybody can say, yes, Jehovah is truly with you people, or we're now going to follow you as we're about to enter into the promised land, or the paradise, and stroke a badger for 1,000 years. That's what you'd think would happen. But no. Apparently kingdom halls are shut and the preaching work has been suppressed. It's bizarre. The coronavirus has done what Hitler couldn't do. The coronavirus has done what many other dictators have done, and peoples in other countries have done. They've managed to stop the preaching and teaching work of Jehovah's Witnesses. They've just stopped it completely, not just one country, but seemingly all over the planet. Incredible. This is the group of people, according to their own beliefs, believe that when the United Nations turns against the world empire false religion and forcibly closes down temples and synagogues and chapels and churches and mosques and kingdom halls, that all these people who've been practicing their particular brand of faith for 50, 60, 70 years are going to say, fair dues, it was a lot of shit anyway, and that the only group of people who are still wanting to practice their religion, still turning up at the kingdom hall, still going out preaching, still going out carting, still practicing their faith, are Jehovah's Witnesses. Bizarre. These are the group of people who say that they'll fly in the face of torture, death and imprisonment and all these other things, and yet bizarrely one virus has managed to stop everything. All of a sudden the preaching work has stopped. All of a sudden the kingdom halls are no longer open. All of a sudden you realise that the Jehovah's Witnesses, instead of being a people afforded protection by Jehovah, instead of being a group of people who cannot stop this preaching work for the urgency of the times we're living in, have at the moment are just like any other religious group out there. They're doing nothing. They're just saying, right, it's better to stay at home, self-isolate. We'll watch JW, thank God for the internet, thank God for the internet. We'll just watch jw.org and we'll do that. But no, there's no preaching work. It's got to self-isolate, keep your distance, that's all stopped. Isn't it funny, Jehovah, if you really are with these people, how come you haven't offered them protection? How come you're not showing that you're exclusively dealing with these people? How come all of a sudden the urgency of the preaching work is no longer urgent? How come people are not being told what this outbreak really means in the relevance of the end of the system of things, the spectacular slaughter and the 1,000 years of stroking a badger? What's going on? Well, it's obvious what's going on. It demonstrates to me that basically Jehovah's Witnesses are just another crackpot religion, doomsday cult. Look at anything like this to suggest it is the end of this system of things, but bizarrely can't tell us all about it because they're looking after themselves. Oh, I'm going to stay in my house. I'm going to need to self-isolate and look after myself, even though their hope is a resurrection to a paradise earth. They should be more than anybody else willing to go out there. Oh, I know I've got it, but I'm going to go out and tell people. Oh my God. So anyway, that's my little spiel about Jehovah's Witnesses, the coronavirus, and the end of the world. So, the only end of is the end of the preaching work. So I'll just leave you with this one scripture. This good news of the kingdom must be preached in the inhabited earth to a witness to all the nations, until the virus comes. Anyway, bye-bye.